This is the new Monster King from HPI Racing. It's based on a mix of parts from the old Wheely King and Crawler King that HPI used to offer. It also features some new parts to make this version easier to work on, better looking, and more durable than ever. For this release, HPI Racing teamed up with Shane England to replicate his Big Kahuna monster truck, and I have to say it turned out pretty awesome. We have an officially licensed Fun Haver Ford Bronco 4400 Lexan body with the Big Kahuna livery to make it look just like the full-size monster truck. There's a small molded plastic roll cage inside, along with a Lexan dashboard and driver figure. It even has a couple of functional LED light bars throughout. Both are controlled using the Channel 3 button on the transmitter. The Monster King sits on a brand new set of TRZ tires that are glued onto some 2.2-inch plastic wheels painted to look like beadlocks. These wheels do sit on 12mm hexes, but HPI also includes a full set of 14mm and 17mm hexes. I tried on a set of 2.6-inch J-Concepts wheels and tires straight from Milo CLMT, and although they looked pretty big, they did technically fit. Between the tires, we have basically the same set of axles that we've been seeing on the Wheely King for years. These axles have all metal diff gears, steel axle shafts, and metal shielded ball bearings throughout. The diffs are grease-filled and not sealed, so you won't be able to tune these by filling them with silicone oil. These clamping lower shock/lower link mounts are carried over from the Crawler King and have a lot more adjustability. What's really nice is they now use a screw pin paired with a nylon lock nut to mount the shocks and links instead of the E-clips that they used to use. Not only that, but pretty much the entire kit now uses hex hardware instead of Phillips hardware. Connecting the axles to the chassis, we have some new blue anodized aluminum lower links to match the body. The upper links are carried over from the Crawler King and now have a higher carbon content to make them less flexible. These plastic center drive shafts are also carried over from the Crawler King, and HPI does include some optional drive shaft parts in the box. All of these parts are slightly longer, giving this Monster King an overall longer wheelbase compared to the old Wheely King. With that said, this is now advertised as a 10th scale vehicle instead of 12th scale. Here's how the truck compares sitting next to the 8th scale low CLMT 2.0 and a Tamiya Cloudbuster. Powering this truck, we have the same brushed ESC that we saw in the Wheely King, but it's now paired with a 12-turn 550 sized brush motor instead of a 27-turn 540 size motor. Since this is a lower turn motor, we'll now have more RPM, but less torque than before. However, the longer can of this 550 motor should give us that torque back. This Monster King comes ready to run with a 7.2 volt 2000 milliamp nickel metal hydride battery and USB charger. However, mine actually didn't include a battery because of shipping, so I'll just end up running a LiPo battery instead. This ESC is 2 to 3S LiPo capable, but HPI recommends that you stick to running a 2S LiPo with the stock motor. The electronics use Tamiya connectors, which should work fine with the stock battery, but it definitely would have been nice to see something like XT60 connectors instead. We've got a pretty basic 16 kilogram waterproof Metal Gear servo that's steering the tires up front through a long series of links and bell cranks. HPI includes some optional servo saver inserts in the box if you decide to change servos. Everything is controlled by a really nice 4-channel radio system. This TF51 has rubber bumpers, hand grips, a drop-down foam steering wheel, and even the ability to swap to a left-handed configuration. The receiver is waterproof and sits in a newly designed receiver box. On all 4 corners, we have these same shocks that we've seen on the Wheely King, but with some new gold springs. We also have some preload clips included in the box. Within the twin vertical plate chassis, there's an updated gearbox. It now uses an adjustable slipper clutch that's carried over from the HPI jump shot. The new spur gear cover also has a removable center cap that allows for the slipper clutch to be adjusted externally. In addition, this gearbox has a new motor mount plate that uses gear mesh inserts also carried over from the jump shot. In the box, some optional inserts are included if you decide to change gearing down the road. We have some adjustable front and rear body posts as well, with an additional body post in the box. Since the rear body post is so tall, they have a new support brace that ties into the center chassis roll bar. Also in the box, HPI gives you some starter tools and a bag of spare hardware. seen or experienced the Wheely King at all, you'll kind of already know what to expect with this Monster King. The only issue I experienced durability-wise was related to the rear differential. Being hard on the throttle can cause the ring and pinion gears in the rear axle to skip teeth and eventually strip out. Thankfully, there are a couple of things you can do for free to prevent this. Like I mentioned earlier, this truck is equipped with an adjustable slipper clutch. However, it seems to be a little too tight out of the box. When the slipper clutch is too tight, there's not enough slip in the drivetrain, so all the power is released through the weakest link. In this case, it appears to be the diffs. If you run into the same issue, try loosening the slipper clutch a bit. I also noticed that the diffs have 2 shims on each side. Changing the shims around so 3 to 4 of them are on the ring gear side will push the ring gear closer to the pinion gear, so there's more engagement between them. Besides that, I had a center drive shaft pop out once, but that was able to be popped right back in without any tools. I tested the truck with a GPS and was able to get it to a top speed of 16 miles per hour on 2S, which is plenty of speed for this platform in my opinion. Once again, HPI recommends that you don't run anything more than a 2S LiPo with the stock motor. Now, I knew some of you would be curious, so I threw in a 3S LiPo to really test the limits of this truck so you don't have to. It was able to reach a top speed of 23 miles per hour, which is quite a big jump compared to 2S. All of that extra power will get you into some trouble though if you decide to bash this truck on 3S. The motor obviously gets very hot very quickly. Mine actually started to melt the insulation on the motor wires a bit. I stripped a rear diff, cracked a shock body, and spit out a bunch of center drive shafts. The moral of the story is to listen to HPI and stick to the stock battery or a 2S LiPo. If you do that, I think you'll have a great time with this truck.